All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number one. That is right, week number one of your 9407 class, which is your intellectual freedom class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we are going to do with this week's check-in video is first of all, this week's check-in video is significantly late, and I'm gonna hope that does not happen again. But in this week's check-in video, we are going to do our course overview. This will be, I guess, if you only watch one check-in video this semester in this class, then this would be the one, because again, this is going to be a course overview. It's going to tell you what is going to be expected of you in this course throughout the semester, and hopefully this will answer some questions, and it might even generate some questions. So if you find yourself having some questions after you watch this, you can reach out to me at austinj@missouri.edu, any place, anytime, any town. And also you can send me a Canvas message, which actually for some might be more appropriate. Let's go ahead, and before we even get into the rest of the video, I am going to show you all how to speed up a check-in video. So for those of you who have not had me before, I come from the rural South. We talk very slowly in the rural South, and therefore it is hard for people to watch my check-in videos if they have to watch them in real time, because I am talking so slow, as you can see right now. However, you can speed these check-in videos up, and the students actually seem to get more out of the check-in videos and are able to bear them more if they keep them sped up. So what we are going to do right now is show you how that is done. Give me one moment. Okay, so I upload the check-in videos to YouTube, and one of the reasons why I do that is because the check-in videos, when uploaded into YouTube, YouTube's AI has gotten a lot better as far as making auto captions and things like that. So auto captions on YouTube videos now are really, really good, and so that for me is also a disability compliance thing, and so I do appreciate the auto captioning. So let me go in here and just show you how to speed up a video really quick. So we've got this video
that
here.
Broner and Santiago, same age.
Alright, and so if you let's say, okay, so this is what we've got going on right here. And if you want to speed up a check-in video, you can just go to settings, or any YouTube video, go to settings, playback speed. And usually, once people go to settings and playback speed, once they take me usually to about 1.5, that seems to be enough to get the job done. So I will turn this to 1.5, start playing.
12 between Adrian Broner and Giovanni Santiago.
Now you can see how much faster it's
Connect percentage. We'll see if you're in the fourth.
Another one really fast, and another one really slow. Okay, so yes, that is how you speed up a check-in video if you ever want to do that. So from now on, and you can actually start speeding this one up right now if you haven't already. And from there, let's go ahead and get into our course overview. I am looking forward to seeing a full class of successful students this semester, but it starts with giving you a proper foundation in what is going to be expected of you in this class. All right, so let's go over here. First of all, welcome to Intellectual Freedom and its Discontents. The first thing I want to do is open the welcome message that I sent out. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to review that really quick. Then we're going to review the guest speaker schedule, and then we're going to go into the syllabus. So I first want to thank you all for your patience with this course going live, and now we are live and ready for action. As I said earlier, I will usually post a check-in video each week by Wednesday morning. There may be some exceptions of when I have too many things going on. If that's the case, I won't do a check-in video. And then I also, on the 3 weeks that we have synced sessions, I don't do check-in videos during those weeks either, because you already have content coming your way, and it's just too much, Dr. Jace, if you end up having to do a check-in video, or if you end up having a check-in video on top of having a mandatory sync session that you need to attend. Check-in videos are going to be optional unless otherwise stated, but for the most part, I think they're just going to be optional. One will be mandatory if something happens terribly in the class and I need to address something, but I don't anticipate that happening. Give me one moment. I know this is running. And so now that I'm here, let me also just explain why I do the check-in videos. So the reason I do the check-in videos, there are basically two types of students. There are, and research has shown this, I'm not making this up, this isn't Dr. Jace just speaking an opinion. But there are basically two types of students. There are the types of students who want to just get into the class, get the A and walk away, or get the passing grade and then walk away. And then there are students who want to cultivate more of a dialogue with the instructor. Okay, there are students who just want to complete the class and go on, and then there are students who want to get something meaningful out of it. They see their instructor as somebody who has been in the field for a while, knows probably a little more than them about the field just due to experience and that sort of thing. And so they're trying to, absorb that knowledge, have a dialogue, maybe make a connection that can be ongoing even after the class is over. And I would say that the check-in videos are more so mostly for that second group of people. If you want to build that ongoing dialogue, then this is how I do it. I do the check-in videos. I talk about things that are going on in the field, and other relevant subjects and that sort of thing. And, I just try to put some food for thought, thank you, out there, and just give you an opportunity to experience a little bit of growth. I will say that the check-in videos may give you a marginal advantage over somebody who isn't watching them if you are watching them, but I will also, I'll come back to that and also say that, again, it's marginal. I do not want you all to feel like you have to watch the check-in videos to really be successful in the class. That is not the case at all. You can be very, very successful in this class without watching the check-in videos if it's just not something you want to do. And I won't take offense to that either. I won't even know. Okay, so it is all good. Watch them if you want to. Don't watch them if you don't want to. But know that you are going to do just fine in the class whether you watch it or not. Okay, as long as you work hard. Okay. All right. Some other things in this first announcement here. If anybody is curious, yes, there are no textbooks for this course. You can access an older version of the Intellectual Freedom Manual for free through the Mizzou libraries. You don't necessarily need to do that, but if you want to do that, again, that might help you get a little bit more out of the class. Please try to network and build community with one another. I put a challenge out to you all to make at least one friend while you are in this class, and make that somebody that hopefully you can maybe exchange either Facebook or LinkedIn information with, maybe after the class is over. Stay in touch with them. The reason I want to say that is because it is important. It's very important in this field to network. Librarians are very, I don't want to use the word incestuous, but librarians are very used to familiarity when it comes to who we hire. We do like to hire people we are familiar with when we can, and that sort of thing. And we are always telling our connections about jobs that are available and that sort of thing. So the reason I say all that is to say that there's a difference between me and you all as far as program. When I went to North Carolina Central University, my program was fully in person, and so there were things that me and my classmates could do, like after class or before class. We could grab coffee. We used to have 6-hour classes on Saturdays, and during the break for those 6-hour classes, we would go get lunch together and things like that. Okay, so you had those types of options available when the programs weren't fully online. It is now much harder to network with your classmates in fully online programs, but that just means you have to be creative, and there are ways to do that. And I want you all, again, to do that, because even though I graduated from library school over 15 years ago, I graduated from library school in 2008, so I'll be hitting the 20-year mark very soon. But I am still in contact with several people that I met in library school. And that should be the case for you all as well. The networking should start here. Okay. And then also, there are errors in this course. There always are. If you see something that I have happened to get wrong, please don't be shy about bringing it to my attention. And some things that I could get wrong, for instance, are maybe inconsistent due dates, like the syllabus says an assignment is due one day and then Canvas itself is saying it's due another. If you run into something like that, let me know and I will correct it. All right, the next thing we need to do is a syllabus overview. If you want to go ahead and take a little break, right now would be the time to do so. I'm going to encourage you to take breaks after each major segment of this video. So I'm just going to say, okay, now is the time to take a break, and then have you do that. So yeah, go ahead and take a break now if you need one. And then the syllabus overview portion of this video is actually probably going to take about 30 minutes. So again, I will encourage you to, if you have not sped this up already, go ahead and speed it up, because especially as I'm going through the syllabus, I start talking slower and slower. All right. Okay, but let's get into that syllabus overview. And after these 30 minutes, I will let you know when we're done and you can take another break. And also, these check-in videos, another benefit to them is that they do show the students that they're not just taking the same repackaged course every single semester where everything is from previous semesters and things like that. No, I want every semester to be its own unique learning experience. There are things that are relevant now that were not relevant in fall 2024, which this class is taught every fall. So there are things that I'm going to be able to talk about this semester that wouldn't have been on the radar last year. And so I just want you all to, again, just realize that I am conscious of probably your desires to have unique content specifically for you, specifically in this semester. And this is one of those things. You can see the August 2025 right there, so you know that I am not making that up. All right, so first, my information. Again, I am Jason/Dr. Jace Alston. You can call me Dr. Jace, you can call me Jace, you can call me Jason, you can call me Dr. Alston. There are a variety of things you can call me, and we are cool. My office is in Miller Nichols Library 122K, and that's on the so I am not based in Columbia, unlike most of the other professors. I am actually based in Kansas City. There was a reason for that. They did need a representative from CISLT to be in Kansas City, and I accept it, and I do not regret it. All right, course description. Intellectual freedom is very frequently held to be a fundamental value of librarianship. Because of its importance, librarians must be able to define it theoretically and practically in order to understand what it means so that it can be defended in practice. Collections, access, and services are all affected by how we define this freedom. Now, as we will see, nothing about intellectual freedom is simple, and so the course will address the topic in principle and in practice. This is going to be a heavy course, folks. We are going to talk about uncomfortable things because it is intellectual freedom. And also, I want to warn you all right now, I'm going to be pushing the envelope. I am going to be cursing. I am going to be saying controversial things because this is an intellectual freedom class, and I'm trying to set the tone to where you all are comfortable doing the same. Okay, so having said that, some things that I want you all to be aware of with this bolded information here. Please note that we will discuss things such as profanity, harassment, gender identity, racism, child pornography, religion, and sexuality in this course in a no-holds-barred fashion. So children should not be listening to this content. And I will, yes, like I said, there will be profanity used in this course by your instructor and by your classmates. You all are allowed to swear as well, so you may want to wear headphones in class. This comes from a previous student. I once had a really, really bad course evaluation comment from somebody who was talking about how I would use profanity in this class. And, you know, she was thinking to herself, I mean, what if the children heard this? And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, why would you have your children listening to me talk about child pornography and nudity in the library and things like that anyway? We are going to be talking about adult topics. So please, if you have children and you're going to be accessing the course material, the audio course materials, please wear headphones or some sort of headset so that your children are not able to hear those things. We have 4 course objectives. The first is understand the philosophical background and constitutional implications of intellectual freedom. The second is critique the entirety of thought on intellectual freedom in librarianship and beyond. The third, realize the kinds of challenges that can arise and the reasons people give for them. And by challenges, I mean book challenges and content challenges. I don't mean general librarian challenges. And then finally, number 4, understand the position of and the demands on the librarian regarding intellectual freedom. There is no course textbook for this class. Course readings are going to be available through Ellis Library and the open web, and there are going to be some resources here to help get you started. You will also need to read, listen, and watch the watch the news in this class because that's going to, and I'm actually going to put one of the things that I add to this class every week is going to be like an intellectual freedom digest update, which will come from the Office of Intellectual Freedom from the American Library Association. And so, yes, that you're going to need to keep up with what's going on. Okay, is that simple. Watch the news or at least access those intellectual freedom blog entry updates that have like the digest of different things that are going on. You'll see me upload one as a announcement, and from there you'll understand what I'm doing, and I'll probably upload those every week. I will definitely upload those every time I get one from the Office of Intellectual Freedom in my own inbox, okay? And that's going to help you, for one thing, for those of you who don't participate in the debate, and I will come back to that a little bit later. For those of you who don't participate in the debate, you're going to have to, as your final paper, you're going to have to discuss an intellectual freedom issue. And so keeping up with the news will definitely help you with that. All right, course participation, regular participation in the discussion is required. You must post meaningful contributions in order to receive full credit. So no me too and things like that. While you are encouraged to bring personal experiences into the discussion, you must look towards the literature and outside your own personal experience in order to receive full credit, and please show that you are listening to others and critically thinking about the readings. There are 15 discussion board weeks as indicated by the syllabus, so the discussions run throughout the unit or throughout the class. If you want to take a weekend off, then you need to simply finish posting by Friday. You are expected to answer the post questions by Wednesday of the week. This is one reason why I do this check-in video, is in part because I want to add some context to what you see in the syllabus. The syllabus is binding. By taking this class, you agree to abide by the syllabus, and the syllabus can change with notice. If I do make any changes or updates to the syllabus, I am required to notify you, and I will do so via announcements. But I am not a stickler for this. This is just in here to protect me. The truth of the matter is, I don't actually go in and grade things until at least the Monday after the Sunday that the things are due, if that makes sense. So I know that says please have your, for the not for the check-in. I know that this says for the discussion board, please have your first post up by Wednesday and then respond to at least one classmate by Sunday, but I am definitely not a stickler for that. You are not going to lose points if you don't do everything until Sunday. It's just that basically it helps me out and helps your classmates out if at least somebody is getting their work up by Wednesday, because then let's say that I have students who it's just impossible for them to do any work on Thursday through Sunday, right? If I have at least 2 students who fall into that boat, but they both have their original post up by Wednesday, then they can also turn around and say, okay, I did my post up by Wednesday, and I know I'm required to do at least one response to a classmate in this unit as well, in this discussion board prompt. But because one of my classmates, only one, but yeah, one of my classmates also put something up by Wednesday, so I can respond to that classmate, and then I will get my 2 points. Because with every discussion board prompt, and we'll come back to this later as well, with every discussion board prompt, you get 2 points if you do things right. You get 1 point for an original post, and then 1 point for responding to a classmate. Okay. And again, I'll explain that a little further in case that didn't make sense. But all that to say, I don't enter grades until after Sunday, so do not panic if you can't do any of your work until Sunday. You are going to be just fine. I am also flexible with this. I am going to say what the policy says, and then I'm going to add some further context. First of all, yes, late work will automatically be lowered by 25% each day. And then assignments that are more than 3 days late will not be accepted unless prior arrangements have been made. If you have circumstances that affect your ability to complete assignments, please contact me at least 3 business days in advance. At least 3 days in advance of the due date. What I'm going to say to that is I'm flexible on that as well, and I am human and I get it. So just talk to me when things are going on. First of all, when it comes to things like bereavement, you lose a loved one, immediate family members, you don't even need to clear it with me. The university guarantees you bereavement time for the loss of immediate family members, but just go ahead and let me know that you need that. So if a child of yours or a parent of yours or a sibling of yours dies, by all means, just let me know that that has occurred, and I will, I will be flexible and give you time. But it doesn't have to be just that with Dr. Jace. Again, I'm human, I'm understanding, and I want to build a positive relationship with you all. So I say that to say that, there are other things that can get you an extension. If you find yourself sick, just let me know. And you more than likely won't need a doctor's note unless this is starting to get repetitive, okay? If you're getting sick every time that there's an assignment due, then I might ask for a doctor's note, but otherwise we're not doing all that. If you lose somebody who's not an immediate family member, it's still okay to reach out to me and ask me, hey, can I get an extension? My friend died, can I get an extension? My uncle died, can I get an extension? My pet died. Yes, I care about that. If you've had a dog for 10 years and your dog was your roommate and best friend and all the things, and then that dog passes away, on Thursday and your assignment is due on Sunday, just let me know, and I will make some accommodations for you. Okay. And same deal with, other things happen to people. If you find yourself arrested, I get that. If you find yourself in jail, you're not going to be able to reach out to me because I know that it's difficult to reach out to people when you're in jail. You're just kind of in there. When you get out of jail, reach out to Dr. Jason, let me know what happened, and we will work from there. Okay. Other things that are painful. If somebody breaks up with you, okay. Let's say that your girlfriend or boyfriend of 2 years breaks up with you 4 days before the assignment. You are going to be messed up. You're going to have a hard time. Ask me, Dr. J's can have a few more days. My heart is broken. Absolutely. Absolutely. I got you. And then it doesn't even have to be something that's negative. So let's say that you find yourself, getting married on Saturday and you've been planning for the wedding and something's due Sunday, but you're getting married on Saturday and it's your wedding weekend and those sorts of things. If that's the case, then just reach out to me and say, hey, Dr. Jace, this is my wedding, man. Come on. Can you just give me a few more days so that I can enjoy this new journey that I'm on with my spouse? By all means, I got you. Okay. So the main thing to do again is reach out. If you and your spouse just need to get away, things are stressful and you need a vacation. I care more about the well-being of your home than I do about you getting a paper to me on time. Just let me know and I will work with you. I won't grant extensions for everything, but I can be very, very kind. Okay. So yeah, and I just said all that stuff there. Grading and feedback. I will make every effort to get your work graded and back to you within 3 weeks, but things are going to come up that prevent me from doing that. So please, please just exercise some grace with me. Okay. Communication. There are a few ways to ensure that you receive all communication. First of all, my announcements are how I keep up with the class, and they are my main avenue of communication with the class. I say that to say that you need to read. You are required, as it states in the syllabus, you are required to read all course announcements because, again, the announcements are the way that I keep in contact with you all. All right. So yes. And you will miss pertinent information if you do not read the course announcements. Now, there is going to be, like, for instance, there are going to be linked readings or linked multimedia in a lot of the announcements. That it will be optional to access those things unless I state otherwise. However, the text of the announcements themselves is required reading. Okay. And then you've got some directions here because you can actually set up to have the announcements come straight to your inbox. And that's something that a lot of the students do so that they get my announcements right away, and that can help them respond to my concerns a lot quicker, okay? Now, if I need to reach out to you specifically as an individual, I'm not doing that via a course announcement. I'm going to send you a message or an email, all right? Yes, that's pretty much it there. Grading and evaluation. The most important criteria for grading are thoughtfulness, completeness, and quality. The effort you put into assignments contributes to your success of the final outcome or product. Okay. All right. So as far as grading scheme right here, the point values for this class add up to 100 and are broken 100 points and are broken down as follows. So again, let's talk about the discussion board prompts here. There are 16 discussion board prompts in this class, including your introduction. And so here's how grading of discussion board prompts works. You can get 32 possible points from the discussion boards, and that includes basically how that works is For each discussion board prompt, and there are, again, 16 of them, you will get 1 point for making an original post, and then you will get 1 point for responding to a classmate. So with each discussion board prompt, you can get up, well, not up to 2 points because you can get extra credit opportunities as well, but you can get at least 2 points. You should aim to get at least 2 points on each discussion board prompt, and you should be doing that for all 16 prompts. So if you do a original post and a reply for all 16 discussion board prompts, then that ends up with 32 points. If that does not make sense, contact me and let me know, and I'll explain it a little further, okay? But also you can get extra credit. So, and you'll see this as a note on the different prompts within the, different discussion board prompts. You will see a note that does say that you can be eligible for extra credit if you do additional responses to your classmates. That is up to my discretion, but a lot of students do like to engage more, and really the more you engage, as long as you are engaging with quality, you can get a lot of extra credit that way, okay? 7 points for the midterm evaluation. The midterm evaluation is going to be just an open book quiz that you do in Canvas. It's not going to be very hard, and it's going to be 7 points. We'll do that after we get through the First Amendment materials and that sort of thing. 15 points for sync session attendance. There are 3 sync sessions, and you are required to attend them all. They're going to be on September the 23rd, November the 4th, and December the 2nd. So 15 points total, because there are 3 sync sessions for you to attend, and each sync session is 5 points. Okay, so you have that going on. 14 points for your band book report discussion. Your band book report discussion. So each of you is going to do a little book report. We'll come back to that later as well, but each of you is going to do a little book report on a band book, and that's going to be worth 14 points. 20 points for your final paper. If you are a debate contestant for the December 2nd session, and again, we will talk about that soon. If you are one of the debate people, if you're one of the debate people, one of the debaters, then you will not have to do the final paper. You will just participate in the debate. And for those of you who don't participate in the debate, then you do have to do, and that's going to be most of you, you will have to do the final paper. And then 12 points for your intellectual freedom project, which is going to be your advocacy letter. So that's 100 points total. In order to get an A, you need to get at least a 93. To get a B, you need a 85 to a 92. To get a C, 75 to a 84. We do not do D's in graduate school, and F is going to be 74 or below. The professor, that being me, has the right to award pluses or minuses depending on exceptional effort or exceptional lack of effort in any letter grade range other than the F range, okay? And that's typically how I do, so I'll use the A as an example to keep it positive. Let's say you do totally banging knockout work, you get perfect grade on every assignment, it just looks great, your discussion board contributions are robust, and you're just doing everything like a model student. Instead of giving you an A, I'm going to give you an A+. But by the same token, there is probably going to be 1 or 2 of you who just do what they think is the bare minimum to get an A. You are turning in things, but it's of quality. It's not bad quality, but it's not great quality either. It's good. It's good. You know, it's good enough to get a low A. But if I see that if I interpret your work as doing the minimum available to get an A, and then you actually do end up with a 93 because of the minimally acceptable work for the A range, then I'm actually probably going to give you an A- if you're in the 93 or the 94 area. Okay. And so that's pretty much how that works. All right. So again, we have 3 sync sessions. We'll come back to talk about what those sync sessions are going to be, but they are on those dates, as I said before. They're your discussion board prompts again, 2 points each for 16 discussions, and that'll be 32. So that is your breakdown, and we've got due dates here. First Amendment exam is going to be due at September the 28th. Your banned book report, October the 26th. Your intellectual freedom advocacy letter is going to be due on November the 23rd. And then the final paper, for those who don't participate in the debate, will be due on December the 15th. Now, I am going to say that November the 23rd I'm probably going to end up changing this because the school wants us to make things do while school is in session. And according to the academic calendar, school ends for Thanksgiving break on November the 22nd. So November the 22nd, which is a Saturday, school will still be in session. And so I may change this to the 22nd, but if I do, there's going to be a note letting you know that if you turn it in on the 23rd, you won't lose any points. It's basically like a grace period of a day. Okay, but I'll figure all that out, and again, you all are going to be fine. Just know that even if I switch this to saying November 22nd to keep the chancellor off my behind, that still does not mean that if you turn it in on the 23rd, you're going to lose points for being late. You're absolutely not. I'm expecting to get these on the 23rd, not the 22nd, if that makes sense. All right, so scroll down a little bit here. First of all, help resources and that sort of thing. If you need help with Canvas or email or things of that nature, then you should email the help desk at helpdesk@missouri.edu, or you can call this number here. Again, our sync session schedule, this will be the perfect time now for me to talk about what's going to be happening in our sync session. So we'll have 3 sync sessions in this semester. Y'all will receive updates when I receive them regarding the participants in the library neutrality panel. So that's going to be November 4th. We're going to have a library neutrality panel, and you see the current participants here. The hate speech debate will feature 6 to 8 of you students. More on this soon, but I'm going to actually dedicate a whole check-in video to this, especially since it's very late this year. The hate speech debate will be on December 2nd, so that will give you all plenty of time. Once I identify, what I'll probably do is talk about the debate more in next week's check-in video. And that way this one, because this one's already long, so maybe I'll talk about the debate in next week's check-in video, and I will also then start trying to see if I can get participants at that time. Hopefully by week 3 we'll have our participants, but we'll see. All right, so all the sync sessions, all 3 of them are on Tuesdays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Adjust for your time zone, because not knowing when they start in your time zone is not an excuse to no-show. Attendance to the sync sessions is mandatory, and again, not knowing when they start is not an excuse to not come. The reason why attendance to these sync sessions is mandatory and why I don't record them is twofold. First of all, these people who come in to visit us during our sync sessions are people who are giving up their evening in order to speak to you. They do enjoy doing that. However, because they are sacrificing their evening, I want them to be respected. I want you all to be in attendance so that they have an audience. It would be very embarrassing for me to have these sync sessions and have you all coming in, and then when you all come in have these sync sessions and have these speakers coming in, and then when they come in, then the students are deciding that they don't want to come, so they don't come, and then my guest speakers don't have anybody to talk to. That's baloney. They want to talk to people in real time, not just pre-recorded, so that you can access it later. And so, yes, you will need to be there. On September the 23rd, we will be hosting Leanne Lord. So she is a stand-up comedian. She has done, she's toured with Chris Rock. She's been on Def Comedy Jam. She has been on BET's Comic View. She's been on several things related to Showtime, especially. She has her own Comedy Central special, and also she has a special on Tubi right now. Again, Leanne is very good as far as putting the... Here's the thing. The reason why we're going to talk to a comedian is because comedians they offer something very unique as far as intellectual freedom, because comedy is supposed to push the bounds of intellectual freedom, okay? And so it's good to have a comedian come in and speak seriously about what she goes through or what comedians likely go through with intellectual freedom issues, okay? And again, she's got the credentials. She's toured with Chris Rock. She's a former co-host of Star Talk Radio with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I know a lot of you librarians are nerdy. You know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is. She was his co-host for quite a while, and she's quite accomplished, okay? And students have really enjoyed her in the past, and I think they will enjoy her in the future, including this semester. November the 4th, that's when we will have our Intellectual Freedom and Neutrality panel. Our current participants are Tina Rollins from Hampton University, Jasmine Baylor from Western Carolina University, Naomi Smith, who is a library science commentator who works independently in London, England, Jason Broughton from the Library of Congress, and then Antoine McDaniel from Rochester Public Library in New York. And then we will have that hate speech debate on December the 2nd. Zoom links will be distributed a few days before the sync sessions. And then what we get into from here is kind of legalese that you see in all of the syllabi. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly because this is the same thing you're going to see in the syllabi of the other classes that you take this semester. First of all, decreasing risk of COVID-19. We have almost no risk of COVID-19 spreading within this class because we're not going to have really any in-person components to this class. Academic integrity, please just don't cheat. Don't pass off other people's work as your own, blah, 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 blah. Academic inquiry, course discussion, and privacy. This is going to be one of those classes where it is very heavy and very intense on the discussion, okay? That's just the nature of the class, the nature of the beast. This is where we're at, all right? So, just be respectful of, I would say be respectful of the, and we'll get down to this in a minute here. So, intellectual pluralism kind of borders on this as well, but again, I just want you all to be respectful. Respect privacy. When I say respect privacy, I'm going to come down here to FERPA. All of you are protected by FERPA, but because of that, I want you all to keep everything that happens in this class when it comes to your classmates. You are likely to be offended more than one time in this class. It is an intellectual freedom class. Now, I grew up in the 90s. I grew up in a time where we had South Park and Beavis and Butthead and gangster rap. The 90s were all about edge. It was about being edgy and that sort of thing, and that's the environment that I come from. Punk rock was another element of edge back in the 90s. I know punk rock started in the 80s, but in my opinion, it really found its footing in the 90s, even though I'm not really into punk myself. But I say all of that to say that, yes, you're going to be offended by things that happen in here. But when that happens, if you are offended by what one of your classmates says, please do not, please don't attempt to dox your classmate or anything like that. Please do not screenshot what your classmate said and put it out on the internet and try to embarrass your classmate or try to, get your classmate to a point where they're not going to be able to get a job or so forth and so on. There is no need for any of that type of behavior. And if I see it, I am going to, if I find out that you have shared statements from a classmate outside of the class, I am going to fail you and I am going to see what I can do as far as getting you, in some form of conduct violation for violating FERPA, because as far as I'm concerned, what your classmates are saying in this class is also protected by FERPA, and I need you all to realize that. So, and they're not going to do that to you either. So we want a mutually respectful and protected class environment here to where if, you can rest assured that, you are going to be able to say what's on your mind, say what you want to say, as long as it doesn't violate student conduct codes, and you can rest assured that it's not going to come back to bite you with a classmate exposing you outside of the class. And I want you to do the same. In order for you to get that respect, I want you to give that respect as well. Okay. All right. So, intellectual pluralism, we really, really do depend on, in this class, we depend on a diversity of ideas, a diversity of viewpoints. If you don't have that, then there's no point of having intellectual freedom. What do you need intellectual freedom for if everybody's thinking the same? I want you all to be daring. I want you all to piss me off. And by the way, I do want to come back to that. I follow a different set of rules. So while I say I don't want you doxing your classmates, yes, if I, as Dr. J, say something that you find controversial or inappropriate or something like that, and you feel the need to dox me, I'm hoping that we can have a conversation instead, but that's not always the case. So if you find yourself in that situation, by all means, let me know. By all means, dox me if that's what you got to do. expose me, report me to the news if that's what you got to do. But again, I'm hoping, because I am going to say edgy stuff, I am going to be cursing. Your classmates are going to be saying edgy stuff. Your classmates are going to be cursing, if they want to. And that's just how this goes. I need you all to be as daring as you've ever been in this class while still being appropriate. Okay. I do think that you all have a sense of when it gets inappropriate. For instance, if you, just as a very crude example, sure, it is inappropriate for you to say something sexually harassing to one of your classmates. Okay, so if you do something like that, I'm going to report you to Title IX to protect your classmate. So, you know how to be appropriate. You can be edgy and still be appropriate. You can be edgy and still not threaten one of your classmates. You can be edgy and still not sexually harass one of your classmates. You can be edgy and still not take a unmerited personal shot at one of your classmates. You can, you don't have to insult your classmate's family, for instance. Like, just stay on topic and act appropriate. We're adults. We can do this. Okay. Now, if you do find yourself experiencing mental health challenges and issues, you have some resources here. We do have wellbeing at wellbeing.missouri.edu. And you can get mental health screenings. There are apps and things like that that can help you with your mental health as well. I'm not an expert in all the offerings that we have, but I know that students struggle with mental health issues. They just do. And I want to be sensitive to that. And if you find yourself in that situation, then Dr. Jace is here to direct you to one of these resources and to make sure that you're okay. I don't want anybody's coffin resting on my consciousness. So please believe me when I tell you. Please know the 988 number first, which is the suicide hotline / mental health crisis hotline. Know about that first. But if I'm the person you have to talk to, I might be up at 2:30 one night grading. And if I see an email pop up from you at 2:30 at night saying, hey, Dr. Jace, if you don't talk to me now, nobody's ever going to talk to me again. Again, I'm hoping that instead of putting that burden on me, you actually talk to a trained professional. Call 988. But if you need me to schedule a Zoom meeting with you, because that's the only way that you're going to be okay, we'll do it. Okay? All right. Netiquette. Again, you can be daring in this class. I want you to be daring in this class, but also just know that things like sarcasm and humor can be misconstrued in an online environment. Okay? So try to, for one thing, what I would ask you to do is consider having grace and understanding with your classmates. And so what I mean by that is, let's say that you said something and meant it some way, and a classmate received it another way, but not the way that you meant it. Please don't be above apologizing to that classmate if they misinterpreted you. Just be an adult about it. Just say, hey, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. But first, I apologize. I did not want you to experience that. I didn't want you to experience what caused you to react in this way. So, I didn't mean it that way. And, you can explain yourself, but also just know that there are going to be times when your classmates take things a certain way and they aren't the way that you meant them. And you should be able to survive that. Try to survive that. Okay. And by the same token, there are going to be times when you take something a certain way, but your classmate did not mean it that way. And if you find yourself taking something a certain way, but your classmate didn't mean it that way, or there's a possibility that your classmate didn't mean it that way, please have some grace and consider, yes, that offended me, it bothered me, but maybe my classmate was trying to say something else. And maybe there are two ways that this could have been interpreted, and maybe the classmate meant the other way. You can still voice your offense by all means, or your displeasure by all means, but also have some grace and understanding that maybe it wasn't meant the way it was received. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Religious holidays and things of that nature. I'm a Christian, but I am a former atheist. I'm also a former Noahide. If you don't know what a Noahide is, go ahead and look that up. But because of that, I do understand that Mizzou's calendar is kind of accommodating to my religious preferences, right? So it's accommodating to Christian holidays. But if you need, or not need, if you want or need, you don't have to need, if you want to observe a holiday, a Jewish holiday, an Islamic holiday, a Hindu holiday, whatever the case may be. An atheist holiday, whatever that might be, a Festivus for the rest of us, or something like that. Whatever the case may be, if you have a holiday or something like that that is not on the Mizzou calendar, but you feel needs to be respected, first of all, you can consult this, but just notify me and be like, hey, Dr. Jace, this is a day that means something to me. Can I have an extension or can I have an accommodation in order for me to observe that day? I will absolutely comply. And then when it comes to non-discrimination, I do not want to discriminate against you on the basis of race, color, national origin, ancestry, religion, sex, including gender, pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, disability, protected veteran status, or any other status as protected and applicable by state or federal law. So basically, I am not going to discriminate against you, nor do I want to, but if you feel you've been discriminated against, again, I hope that you will come to me first. But if you don't feel that you can come to me first, that is okay. You can, instead of coming to me, go ahead and report me to Title IX. But I am going to try my best to not put myself in a situation where you feel the need to report me. And then finally, students with disabilities. If you do have a disability, please register with the Disabilities Center and have an accommodation plan created. And if you have an accommodation plan created, then I can make some accommodations for you, and I'm more than happy to do that. But I need you to go through the accommodation through the Disability Center in order to get a legitimate accommodation plan that I am then forced to abide by. And when I say forced, that's kind of a strong word, but that I will abide by. Okay. All right, and that pretty much takes us through the syllabus, and now is another good time to take a break. If you want to take a break, go ahead and take one now, and then from here we will talk about assignments. All right, lovely students. I hope you got in a little break there, and from here we are going to talk about the course assignments. Let's go ahead and get into that. The dog. Hold on. Actually, sorry, Dr. Jace was a little bit out of order there. Before we go into the assignments, we need to go into our modules so that you will see what you are tasked with as far as subject matter throughout the semester. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. But again, after this will probably take about 20 minutes. Again, speed the video up, but unsped, this will take about 20 minutes. And yeah, we have 15 weeks, 15 modules, yada, yada. And we are going to talk about what you will be talking about throughout the duration of this semester. So let's go ahead and start scrolling here. And first of all, you are currently in Module 1 or Week 1, and that is controversial speakers on campus. So Weeks 1 and Week 15 are actually kind of lighter topics. Week 15 is going to be comedy. It's going to be a module about intellectual freedom and stand-up comedy. And the reason why we are having basically bookends there, those are speech on campus, and is kind of a lighter, kind of more interesting topic, something that will hit a lot of you directly, or something that, you know, you understand without a whole lot of reading and that sort of thing, basically. And the same with what's going to happen in Week 15. I do like to just kind of bookend this class with things that are kind of lighter, and then get the more heavy, meaty content in Weeks 2 through 14, if that makes sense. Okay, so start out with something a little lighter, and then end with something a little lighter, and we'll do the heavy-duty stuff in between. So yeah, speech on campus this first week, and I have read some of your responses to my Medium essay from a few years ago, and I already love the way some of you think. I absolutely do. You do not have to agree with me, by the way. It is, don't think that disagreeing with me is going to end up with you getting a lower grade. These classes are not my safe spaces, okay? All right, so Week 1, controversial speakers on campus. Week 2, First Amendment basics, which is the First Amendment, and the basics of that for this course. So in order to understand intellectual freedom, you do need to know about the First Amendment. And in fact, we're going to be talking about the First Amendment a lot, and you're going to see what I mean in a few minutes here. So we start with First Amendment basics, and that includes the 14th Amendment. We do have to, the First and the 14th Amendment work in tandem in order to make sure that the First Amendment protections are not only there at the federal level, but also at the state and local levels, okay? We're gonna, let me scroll. One thing that I want you all to also be aware of, so you're gonna see things from James Rich a lot. I believe that Jim Rich is still a librarian at UNLV, but when he was in my class during the pandemic many, many years ago, he is a lawyer. He has a he has a JD. He was not a practicing lawyer, but had a JD and had a very good understanding of how the law works. Now, don't get me wrong when it comes to, because I'm sure you all are saying to yourselves, "Oh, we're going to talk about the First Amendment and First Amendment exemptions." Who is Dr. Jace to be trying to teach us that? How is he qualified for that when he's not a lawyer? The reason I'm qualified to teach on that is because of the class I took. I took basically a First Amendment law class while I was working on my PhD because it was relevant to what I was trying to do within librarianship. And so I passed that class, enjoyed that class, loved that class. I would take it again if I could. So I say that to say that, I learned about the First Amendment, 14th Amendment, and exemptions to freedom of speech in the First Amendment through that class. And that's why I'm qualified to teach on it. However, I have never been a lawyer. I don't have a JD and so forth and so on. So when Jim took my class, he actually, because he was a lawyer and because he understood the law in a way that I could not, he was able to actually answer discussion board posts in a way that really, really helped me as well as the rest of the class. So after the semester was over, I asked him, I was like, "Hey, Jim, do you mind if I save your comments and use them in future classes?" Because basically with the JD perspective that you have, you really flesh out and add a level to interpreting these laws and these exemptions that I just do not, as somebody who has only taken one law class and certainly does not have a JD, I am not qualified to do it. And he was just like, "Certainly." So I've kept his comments in the class, and he is brilliant. He is I will say he is for sure, one of the 100 smartest people I've ever met. Jim definitely was. And I know 100 probably sounds like a lot, but I mean, I've met tens of thousands of people in my life. So when I can say, yeah, this guy's probably one of the 100 smartest I've ever met, that actually does mean something. Okay. So again, we will lay the foundation in explaining the First and the 14th Amendments in week number 2. Week number 3, we're going to have several modules of First Amendment exemptions. Okay. And this will come together as we go further and further in the class. So I'm not going to flesh that out too much now. But in week number 3, we're going to talk about First Amendment exemptions, including obscenity, child pornography, fighting words, and true threats. And when I talk about First Amendment exemptions, what I'm telling you is these things are exempt from First Amendment protections. And what that means is if it's exempt from First Amendment protections, then that means that it's unprotected speech, and that speech can be outlawed or made illegal. So, for instance, child pornography, or the term now might be child sex abuse material, obscenity, fighting words, and true threats. These are things that are not protected by the First Amendment, and so forms of speech and expression that are not protected by the First Amendment. And so therefore, if you are guilty of if your speech falls into, or your expression falls into one of these categories, then you can be penalized by the government for that expression. I do that. All right. And the same thing goes on. Let's scroll down from there. But week number 4, we're going to have further instruction on First Amendment exemptions. This will include defamation, blackmail, and incitement to lawless action. So these are not protected forms of speech. You are not allowed to defame people. You are not allowed to blackmail people, and you are not allowed to incite people into lawless action. And you can be sanctioned by the government for doing so. Okay. Now, this is something that I am trying to lead the charge on when it comes to library science programs. I don't know what is going on with library science programs, but I have met so many librarians I've been a librarian since 2008. And I have met so many librarians throughout my library science career that say that hate speech is not protected speech. And it is. In the United States, yes, hate speech is protected. And all you have to do is ask these people, okay, if hate speech is unprotected speech, what case law makes hate speech unprotected speech? And they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But look at them crazy right back, because if you were to tell them that fighting words are unprotected, and they were like, okay, tell me the case law that tells me that. You'll be able to say Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire. All right. So, all that to say that I am trying to get this false information out of our field. As librarians, we've got to stop claiming that hate speech is not protected speech, because that causes some issues. And we'll talk about that later, but it does cause some issues when librarians don't know that, hey, hate speech actually is protected. And in fact, it doesn't even have a federal definition. Okay. So yes, hate speech is a form of protected speech. Now, in the European Union, hate speech is not protected speech, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So you've got some resources there. But again, I want you all to come out of this. I don't know what it is. I do think that there are library science programs actually out there teaching that hate speech is unprotected speech. I think that's why so many librarians believe that, and it's not true. So I'm trying to be on the forefront as far as actually teaching students what actually is the truth. And the truth is hate speech is protected speech. Okay. No, the U.S. does not need European style hate speech laws. Yada, yada. All right. So we'll scroll down to that, but I'll also say that from there, after we do the hate speech module in week 5, then you will take your First Amendment examination. And again, that's going to be open book, and it's actually going to be pretty easy. So don't worry about that too much. Should be 7 easy points. Let's hope it is at least. Don't forget it's open book. That is the main thing. What I would recommend you do is have one browser open with the examination, and then have another browser open that you can either Google or whatever, because I don't care if you find the answers on Google. The main thing is that you know what you're talking about. All right. Library neutrality is a huge subject that librarians just go on and on and on about. And it's not my favorite topic. And that's part of the reason why I bring in a panel to talk about it, is because to me, it's just obvious that libraries can't be neutral, because libraries they tend to be state funded or government funded institutions funded with taxpayers. And so they do carry the agenda of the state in some way. Okay, so I just say my view is very oversimplistic. Let me put it that way. I don't approach library neutrality with the same sophistication that most librarians do. Most librarians are very sophisticated with this topic. I am not. I am very basic, almost to the point of, well, basicness. I am very basic when it comes to my opinions on library neutrality. I don't believe anything that is funded by the state is neutral. And, that's not necessarily a bad thing. They say that judges and courts are supposed to be neutral, but they're not. They are inherently wedded to the best interests of the state as perceived by those in power. But yes, so I don't think that government institutions can be neutral. So for me, it's as simple as that. But there's a wider discussion to have there, and so that's why we have a unit on that. And then from there, we start talking about more practical things. A lot of intellectual freedom classes throughout library science programs in the country, a lot of them tend to actually be more theoretical. I don't do that well with the theory. So once we get through the First Amendment stuff and we have a better understanding of what is and is not protected speech, which is very important to know when it comes to intellectual freedom. After that, I just start taking it to practical library issues. So week number 7, we will talk about book banning and challenges in general. Week number 8, we kind of continue with that. Part 2, recent developments in the age of MAGA. Now, I'm going to be very careful about what I say about MAGA. Unfortunately, higher education, just to be honest, has lost its way. I remember 20 years ago when I was in undergraduate school during the George W. Bush administration. And the higher ed was not into George W. Bush that much. They were from 2000, and my freshman year of college was 2001. From 2001 to I would say 2003, higher ed was in George W. Bush's pocket. Like it was all about the patriotism. It was all about 9/11 and that not happening again and so forth and so on. But it didn't take long before once Bush started talking about Iraq, then he started losing. People were fine with Afghanistan, and Dr. Jason's old enough to remember all this. people were fine about Afghanistan, but once George W. Bush started talking about invading Iraq, that's when he started getting a lot of detraction within higher ed, and he never went after those who spoke against him within higher ed. Well, the Patriot Act was its thing, let me say never. But really, the George W. Bush administration didn't launch an all-out assault on higher ed to the point where professors were afraid to do their jobs and critique what was going on in the country. We are now there. This particular, I'm not going to speak because I can't because of what has happened. So I'm not going to speak about, directly about, I'm just going to be careful. Let me put it that way. But we are in MAGA times, so there is nothing wrong with me mentioning MAGA here, and certainly the things that are happening during these MAGA times. But I am going to say that, unfortunately, there are some things that I should, as a university professor, I should be saying about what is going on in the country right now and what is going on with higher education right now. But I can't, because all institutions of higher education that draw funds from the federal government now are pretty much just basically making their professors shut up. And when you find yourself in that sort of situation, then yes, the people that benefit from us shutting up, they win. I'm gonna just leave it at that because that's all I can do. All right. And by the way, hopefully you all don't think I'm some sort of coward or punk, but you just got to understand these are the times that we're in now, and unfortunately, and I hope that we aren't always here. So I will still be working 20 years from now. And when I'm 20 years from now, I am hoping that this is very much a distant memory and higher education has gotten its nerve back, but we will see. Week number 9, intellectual freedom and juveniles. There are certainly specific intellectual freedom considerations when you're talking about people under 18. Week number 10, we will talk about meeting rooms, exhibit spaces, and programs. We will be talking about the very contentious case with Seattle Public Library. If you're not already aware of that, you will be. Week number 11, patron and user privacy and confidentiality. We should always be respectful of that. Week number 12, filters and filtering. Again, important. Week number 13, librarians, and self-censorship. As you all already know, Dr. J's just self-censored on his own video. I just did it. And you all saw me do it. These are the times we're in, folks. Week number 14, we will talk about collection development and management concerns. And I love this important factors in Midwestern public librarians' views on intellectual freedom and collection development. Woo! I love this study. It's one of the best studies in this particular area that I've seen. And so that's going to be very enlightening and I hope eye-opening for you all. Finally, week 15, intellectual freedom and comedy, which is going to be the course closeout. Okay. So we'll have all of those things going. That is what we will be talking about this semester. And now is another time to go ahead and pause. And then after you pause, we will talk about, now's the time to go ahead and take a break. And then once you take your break, come back and we will, from here, we just have to talk about the assignments and then I'll talk about a little bit of myself and then I'll let you go. Okay. All right. So assignments right here. Okay. So, the assignments that you're going to have, you are going, come on. First of all, that, First Amendment examination, I want you all to just know, again, you're going to have an open book exam that's worth 7 points, on the content that we learned about in the first 5 weeks. Your banned and challenge book report. Let's go ahead and talk about that for a few minutes here. So with your banned or challenge book report, what you're going to do is you're going to make something that's not going to be that long, hopefully between 500 and 1100 words. But what you're going to do is you're basically going to write a little book report about a banned or challenged book. And you are going to answer these questions here, but don't put it in Q&A form. I still want your post to be in essay form, not Q&A form. Q&A, I just think is so lazy. I can't stand when people do Q&A form on things. So yeah, do this in essay form, but make sure you answer these questions here. And you all have been already assigned you'll see here, you all have already been assigned a banned book. However, if you want to switch to a different banned book, if you want to possibly trade with a classmate or something like that, then just let me know. If you let me know, then I'll see what I can do, because there are going to be some of you are going to want to do your book report on something other than what you were assigned. And please know that these were assigned at random for the most part. I did want hood feminism on there, so I skipped front desk to put somebody on that because of the number of students we have. But if you are aware of if you're aware of a banned book that is not listed here. Now, if you don't see anyone's name beside it, then that means that it's unassigned. And if you want to be switched to something that's unassigned, go for it. But then also, if you are, if you're somebody who wants to do a particular book that's not in this list, then again, contact me and let me know what it is, and then I'll determine whether or not I'll have to approve it, but I'll see if I'm okay with that. Okay. All right. And but you're going to post these as discussion board posts. And the reason for that is, if you get the time, this is going to be optional, but this is peer-to-peer learning. And I try to have one peer-to-peer learning element in all of my fall classes. So this is what we're doing in this particular class. What you're going to do is learn from your classmates. So after everybody has turned in their book report, posted it in the discussion board area where it belongs, then you all can read each other's book reports if and when you have time. And that's why I'm trying to put a limit of 5 to 1100 words there, is so that it's not too taxing for your classmates to want to read the work that you've done if they elect to do so. Okay. I do want in-text citations. You're going to have to do this in APA format. I'm going to talk a little bit about APA in a different check-in video, but we're not going to exhaust that right now. But yes, you are in grad school, so when you're doing papers, you do need to incorporate sources and things like that. Just do it. That's what you should be doing. Okay, so yeah, that is your banned book report, and that's a way for, again, because that is a discussion piece, among other things. It can be an icebreaker when you're at conferences and things like that. But these are just things that, again, you as a librarian, it's just good for you to know why these various books were challenged or banned or that sort of thing. Okay, so that's that. Advocacy letter assignment. So what you're going to do also, I think it's very helpful for our librarians to know how to be advocates. Now, there's a difference between advocacy and activism, and I will revisit that later as well. But you all are advocates, not activists. And so it is good, again, to know how to do an advocacy letter. So what you're going to do, and this is why you need to be paying attention to the news and to what's going on, you're going to identify a public intellectual freedom controversy, preferably one with libraries, and you're going to write an advocacy letter confronting the situation. You will not be required to turn that letter in. However, if you do want to, like, turn that, when I say, ooh, I messed up. You are required to turn that letter in. Yes, you are. You have to turn it in to me. But what I meant was, you are not required to send that letter off. That's what I meant. So let's say that let's say that there is a Kansas City intellectual freedom issue, and you're writing the Kansas City City Council, and you're telling them, hey, you're telling them that you're letting City Council know via your letter that you take this particular stance and yada, yada, yada. Yes, you have to turn that into me, but do you have to send it to the Kansas City City Council? No, you do not, but you can if you want to. You're not required to publish it, but you can publish it also if you want to as well. So, like, let's say you wanted to do your letter as a letter to the editor and actually write to a newspaper and have the newspaper publish it. That is fine, and there are actually some examples. There's an example of an advocacy letter from an LIS professor here, and she was responding to this right here. Okay, so if you're going to be good with intellectual freedom, you need to know how to advocate, and so this tests your ability to advocate, and yeah, learn how to make a case. Just learn how to make a basic case. All right. And then finally, you're going to have a term paper, unless you participate in the debate. As it says here, debate contestants will not have to do this and will receive a grade out of 20 based on their debate performance, okay? But if you do not participate in the debate, then on December 15th or before, you're going to use this rubric and you're going to write a term paper, just a nice 7 to 10 page term paper on an intellectual freedom issue, and you're going to take it from beginning to end, okay? And yeah, if you're not exactly sure whether or not the topic you pick would count for your term paper, again, just reach out to me, ask me, and I will help you determine whether or not it will, or I will determine whether or not it will, and then let you know from there. So that is pretty much it for assignments. I will talk about the individual assignments a little bit more as we get closer to the due dates for all of them. However, as I already said, this is going to be a long check-in video, so there really wasn't the room to do all of that in this check-in video, okay? Which we are almost done with. Take one final pause, and then I will close out by telling you a little bit about me, who I am, my credentials, and something that I want you all to think about as you are taking this class with me. But this is something that I tell all of my classes. Okay, pause, take a break. All right, so let's get to know your instructor a little bit. My name is Dr. J.S.K. Austin. I am I have a lot of experience with libraries. Let me just put it that way. So I have been within the library science field since 2006 when I entered as a student. So I will next fall of 2026, that will mark my 20th anniversary of being part of this field in some shape, form, or fashion. Okay. But a little bit about me. I grew up in Soul City, North Carolina. That is a real place. Google it. Spent my teenage years in the Richmond, Virginia area, graduating from Meadowbrook High School right outside of Richmond, Virginia in 2001. From there, I went to UNC Wilmington, in Wilmington, North Carolina, got a bachelor's in English in 2005, worked as a newspaper reporter for 3 years. And during my time as a newspaper reporter, I also got a library science master's degree from North Carolina Central University, which, a little bit of trivia here, there is only one HBCU, which is historically black college or university, with a library science program that's accredited in this country, and that is at North Carolina Central University, okay? So, got my master's degree there, and then I do hold a PhD from the University of South Carolina, which I earned in 2017. As far as work experience, I am a librarian who has done the work. I'm not just some person who read some books and then decided to start teaching. No, I actually do have the experience, okay? So, my first library job was as a diversity resident librarian at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro from 2008 to 2010. And by resident librarian, basically what a library residency is for those of you who are familiar with the TV show Scrubs, the characters in Scrubs were in a medical residency. Well, libraries have residencies too, and those are to equip some of these library school graduates with an additional skill set, especially if they don't have paraprofessional experience, equips them with an additional skill set to make them competitive on the market and to get them to a place where they are retained so they don't leave the profession and that sort of thing. That was a term limited appointment that was 2 years. For a year and a half, I worked as a adult services librarian for Forsyth County Public Library in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and that was an inner city library, and I dealt with inner city stuff, so I have that on my record as well. While I was working on my PhD, I also was a community college librarian at Midlands Technical College in Columbia, South Carolina. Upon graduating with my PhD, I landed a job for 2 years at Coastal Carolina University as a business librarian down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I left Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which was a great place to live, y'all. I left Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to come to the Midwestern weather of Kansas City. So I wasn't putting my PhD to use with that job that I had down in Coastal. So I came up here where I could put the PhD to use. And from here, I have been teaching in this program since 2018. And hopefully I will teach here until I retire, but we will see. So that is my educational and work experience background. If you want to know personal stuff about me, I'm a Christian, I'm a sports fan. I enjoy doing martial arts, and I care about the health, both mental and physical, of my students. So I would like for you all to, if possible, make time to exercise, eat healthy, those sorts of things, and take care of yourselves. And a final thing that I want to mention here is, and I do this in every class, and I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but this is something that I do for myself. I do want you all to understand that I know that some of you have never had a black teacher before. This is something that I see come up a lot in the Midwest, to where I am people's first black teacher. They can be in grad school, and they, throughout K-12 and throughout even undergrad, they never had a black instructor, and then I was the first. If that is the case for you, then I don't want you all to be nervous, but I may communicate differently than what you're used to. And I want you to, I want you to have some understanding of that. Okay. So, what I'll say is this: when I first got here to the University of Missouri, my teaching evaluations, they were terrible, and people were saying I was aggressive and I was abrasive and, I was defensive, and they were scared to talk to me and these sorts of things. And I was actually very surprised and kind of hurt by this. Because my teaching evaluations had always been good when I was when I was teaching during my time at the University of South Carolina. I had to teach at the University of South Carolina as well, while I was working on my PhD. That is how I funded my PhD, was by teaching. Okay. So the University of South Carolina, well, let me just say the state of South Carolina, is more diverse, particularly in the rural areas, than Missouri is. And so when you meet people in South Carolina, I will just keep it honest, they tend to be used to black people. Even rural students in South Carolina, they go to school with black kids, they have black teachers, so forth and so on, black sports coaches and things of that nature, even in the small towns, even in the rural areas. And so, yes, people were used to me and my temperament as a southern rural black man. I grew up in the rural South myself, and people were used to that sort of vibe down in South Carolina. But when I got here, things were totally different. People were not used to that, and I did have to realize who I was talking to. In Missouri, unless you grew up in like Kansas City or Columbia or Springfield or St. Louis or a few other places, Jeff City possibly as well, you probably didn't encounter black people very much. You probably didn't have a black teacher and all of these things. And so when I'm the first one, yes, it might be a little different for you. But what I want you to do is just kind of, if you find yourself thinking that I'm abrasive or I'm aggressive, and you might actually think that in the intellectual freedom class, because I am going to be those things to a certain extent in here by nature, so that you all are as well. But if you find me particularly problematic and you think that I'm just way more aggressive and way more just outrageous than than the other teachers that you've had here in Cecil, I do want you to sit with that for a moment and ask yourself, okay, is it really him, or is it how I perceive him? All right. But I will also say that I meet people halfway. I have adjusted my teaching style, and since I have adjusted my teaching style, yes, my evaluations have gotten much, much better, and now my evaluations are pretty much in league with the evaluations of the other Cecil professors. But I really had to learn how to communicate in more of a Midwestern fashion, and that is not, trust me, the way Midwesterners communicate, I'm just going to be honest, I would not have survived the rural South as a black man who communicated the way that Midwesterners communicate. But also, by the same token, I wasn't going to survive the Midwest unless I learned how to communicate like Midwesterners do. So I say that to say that I have adjusted my teaching style so that my students here in the Midwest, who maybe aren't as used to black people as Southern students are, I've adjusted my teaching style so that they're more comfortable with me. But please meet me halfway. You see that I am trying to present myself in a way that doesn't cause any feelings of off-put or anything like that, but just meet me halfway. If you think that I'm abrasive, if you think that I'm unapproachable, find out if it's really me, or maybe it might be you, and don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about bias, but try to overcome it. We all have bias. I have ethnic biases, certainly. I have had to work on gender biases. I've had to work on ableism and things like that. We all have to do the work, and it doesn't make you bad people, okay? And I just want you all to internalize that I'm not here to judge you, but I may be giving you an experience you need, because if you have not had much contact with black people and you don't know how we communicate differently or how our mannerisms or other things might be different, then let's say you did grow up in a lily white town in Missouri or in Kansas or something like that, and then you find yourself getting like a great library job in Kansas City, but once you move to Kansas City, you are dealing with black people from Eastern Kansas City, and it's something you've never done before. At the very least, your exposure to me may be helpful in preparing you for that. And so I want all of us to look at this as a growth opportunity, because I am vested in your success, okay? Your success is what I care about more than anything else as far as my teaching right now, okay? And I want you all to just know that Dr. Jace is here for you. I care for you. It is going to be a contentious semester because this is a class that is contentious by nature, but we can get through it with mutual understanding, mutual respect, and a song lyric that I like. When my devil meets your demons, we can find a little grace. That's from Jelly Roll, a song called Grace. You know, let's have some grace with each other because there's enough scorn in the world. The world will give you enough scorn. We don't need to scorn each other. Let's go ahead and uplift and build each other. Let's disagree and let's have candid disagreements because this is the class for it. But let's do it with the goal of all of us growing and getting to a better place and being ready to serve our society just a little bit better. I am Dr. Jace, and you are now at the start of the race. See you next week.